Nearly 1/3 of the Senate has decided to retire, marking an end to some long and accomplished legislative careers. We're planning an occasional series over the next few months to talk with some retiring senators about their accomplishments and experiences. This week, we begin with Senator Patricia Torres Ray. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here, Shannon.
You are the first Latina to serve in the Minnesota Senate following your election in 2006. And in 2010, you were the first woman of color to run as lieutenant governor in Minnesota. Do you view yourself as a trailblazer, and is it gratifying to see increases in diverse representation in many areas across the state?
I have been defined as a trailblazer by many groups, and I am very honored to receive that title. It's very gratifying, and you don't run to be the first off. You just run because you're passionate and because you're being asked to join a race. And then along the way, you find all of these people who say, I was so inspired by your speech. I was so inspired by the work that you did. I'm inspired by your presence here at the Capitol. And I decided to run. I decided to do this. I decided to take this step. So it's very gratifying, and it's wonderful to find that, in groups that you don't expect it. Sometimes you go to a church, you go to a gathering, and you find people who will tell you, I listened to you when you were presenting this bill in the floor, and I was so inspired, and I called somebody, and I'm running now for this position for the school board. So it's very gratifying. I love it, and I will love to continue to do that.
You chaired the education policy in 2013 and 14, and you've spearheaded a number of initiatives to improve educational outcomes, including aids for students learning English, and also advocating strongly for more Indigenous teachers and teachers of color in the classrooms. As the state moves forward, what do you believe are the most pressing needs for kids in the classroom?
We need to address the education gap. And that has really been my passion and the reason for why I served in the committee from the very beginning and really focused my work on those populations. We have a great challenge in Minnesota, but we also have a state that value education, that really want to put resources in education. And I think that we need to do more in terms of accountability. And people will say, how do you say that instead of just, funding education and providing the resources? I want to do both. I think there is an issue of accountability to families, parents, and particularly our students. We need to do more to inspire students, to stay, graduate, pursue higher education. We need to reinvent education. We need to hire people that reflect the student population. We have to do many things, and we know what those things are. That's what is most exciting about it. When you don't know, it's very difficult. What do we do? And people often say, what do we do, Senator Torres Ray? We have this achievement gap. What do we do? Well, we invest in these children. We inspire these children. We work with their families. We want to make sure that they have a stability in their lives, that they have a good home near their house, that they have a clinic, that they are healthy. All of those things can be done. Minnesota has the resources to do that. We just have chosen to ignore it far too long. Since I came to this country, I've been talking about these statistics and continue to talk about the disparities that exist in this state, and we have to end them. So, I have tried the LEAPS Act, which was really when Carlos Mariani and I were chairing the Education Committee when we did this work together. So it was just really the moment, the House and the Senate, let's do policy reviews in depth and try to change the practice of education. And that has been really a piece of policy that has been reviewed nationally. And a lot of foundations are paying states to say, okay, look at Minnesota and what they are doing. So I'm very proud of that.
Your district was impacted in the aftermath of the killing of George Floyd. You spoke passionately on the Senate floor on behalf of your constituents for aid to rebuild. How is your district doing?
My district is doing okay in some ways. I still feel very passionate and very touched by that really conversation. It has been really one of the most important conversations, the most important issues that my district confronted. And I'm still not over it, of course. I have many friends who don't have the restaurants. We have many businesses who have not been able to rebuild. We have vacant lots in key corners of my district, and I just can't, just driving by is very painful for me. Have we done enough? No. Actually, we've done almost nothing in the state of Minnesota, in the legislature, to help my district. And that has been really the most frustrating part of my career here, to endure the treatment that I have endured and that my community has endured. The criticism of my city, the criticism of the community that welcomed me to this country 35 years ago, the criticism of a community that really created an environment for businesses to thrive in a corridor that was dying, that nobody wanted to work with or be in, and not have the legislature, the Senate, accepting that this is really an important part of what we needed to do, that we needed to invest in that energy and to rebuild those businesses that have given so much to our community. It's been very hard. Very, very hard. And I continue to try to be a voice. We try to work with foundations, with the Lake Street Council, to bring those voices to the legislature, to see if we can move some of our members to really look at the importance of investing in that area. But it has not been easy.
So you are currently the ranking minority member of the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. Environmental concerns are very important to you. You're also on the Energy and Utilities Committee. And from a DFL perspective, there is an intersection of environment and energy as, states, nations are moving to more renewable energy. Are you hopeful for the future in those two regards?
I am hopeful when I meet with the private sector and I hear what companies and what I hear the young people engage in this conversation and what people outside of the Senate are asking us to do. I am very excited about it. I think that conversation is deeper today, the understanding this is an existential threat that we need to address. All of the issues to protect our environment, to protect our planet, to protect water, to protect our own existence is real. And young people understand it. We have more knowledge about it, but we're not acting on it. And that is the frustration here. Of all the committees, being in the Energy Committee and the Environment Committee has been the most frustrating for me, because the action is not there. It doesn't reflect the urgency that we hear. It doesn't reflect our understanding of how science really needs to drive, what we do here in policy. There is a complete disconnect.
Finally, as you prepare to leave the Senate, what accomplishments are you most proud of, and what will you miss?
I am very proud of the opportunity that I have received and I have provided to the community to be here. I believe very strongly that we cannot do policy without people, and I live that every day. Young people chant, "No decisions about us without us." I believe in that. And so I have tried very hard with my caucus, in the Senate, everywhere, to say, no, we are going to bring people to really drive the conversation about the policy that we're designing for them. I'm most proud of that. For me, that's a very important task of the work that we do as policymakers.
Senator Patricia Torres Ray, I want to thank you so much.
Thank you.